Good evening and welcome, everyone. It's time to call this regular meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board of Trustees to order. Today being Monday, September 16th, 2024. We're waiting for one board member that will be coming in a little bit late. Amy Haynes will be coming in. In the meantime, Mr. Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Becky Luna Chavez.
Present.
Mr. Diego Almaraz.
Here.
Mr. Joshua Oberfeld.
Present.
Mr. Raymond Mesa.
Here.
Mrs. Linda Guanajuato Webb.
Present.
Miss Amy Haynes. Sir, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We'll have opening ceremonies, again, first with a moment of silence for personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Again, we have some reports. We're going to go through our agenda. First item we have is item 4, recognitions. Del Rio High School Mariachi Band. We have Ricardo Rios. Mr. Rios.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, as part of our usual fine arts showcase, with it being 16 de septiembre, well, we figured it'd be very fitting to then have our Mariachi de Medianoche, which is our varsity group from Del Rio High School. Students, if you would come to the stage, please. And so we've done already some community events. We went and played for folks over at the Del Rio Housing Authority as part of their 16 de septiembre activities. And tonight we're going to be doing one song. We have a few more, but I know that it's a tight agenda, so we'll just be playing one song entitled Dime Como Quieres. And it's going to be featuring a duet between two of our senior students, one being Sandra Luz and the other student being Abrams. So I'm going to go ahead. Do we need this mic already over here? All right, this year we have a few more violins, which is great. It's a slightly larger group that we've been able to put together. And so let me go ahead and turn it over to our Mariachi de Medianoche, and they will be playing Dime Como Quieres with our own version of our Christian Nodal over there and Angela Aguilar over here on this side. So here we go.
and we still went out there to make sure that they get their sign out there to make sure that people know that they were our scholarship winners. So our main goal, right, is to recognize innovative teaching here at the school district. This fall, SFDR CISD Education Foundation Board, we awarded 27 innovative teaching grants, a total of $29,427.92. Applications were submitted by the teachers, counselors across the district, and winning the grants were handed out during the back-to-school convocation in August. I know this is a really hard one to see, but it just shows the 27 teaching grants that we have, and it was from high school all the way to Lamar and elementary schools across the district. So teachers are talking to themselves. They're talking to and saying, hey, let's pair up and let's make it better. And we're seeing it more and more. And like I said, with over 100 teaching grads this year, so they're doing a great job. The fundraising efforts, we do have 2 ways to do our fundraisers. One of them is Adventure on the Creek. This past spring, the Education Foundation successfully hosted the 4th annual Adventure on the Creek race. This is a fun day that teachers get to cycle and run and kayak against each other. We do ask the community to be involved as well, and we just seems that every year there's something new that we add to it that just brings more excitement to Adventure on the Creek. But the spirit of having elementaries against elementaries and high school against freshmen and early college, it's there, right? They want to make sure that they're the top, elementary or top middle school or high school to win. And these athletes, right? Because are pretty fast while they do it. Other fundraiser effort we have is our annual dinner and auction. This year we decided to go with a different venue. We decided to kind of spice it up and dress up. Lots of fun. Our annual dinner auction event is our flagship fundraiser. It is through this event that we're able to raise thousands of dollars for innovative teaching grants. This is a big event that we hold. We couldn't do it with some of our partners, and we couldn't do it with y'all's help. This is something that every year we want to make sure that it grows as well. So we already put the save the date, April 11th of 2025. We're going to be in Chante Jardín. We don't have a title yet of what we're going to do, but last year they decided to go with a Bixby theme, and it was lots of fun, lots of people. We were to the max at El Jardín there. This year we're asking if we can have a little bit more room, maybe open up the doors and expand it as much as we can, so we can raise as much money as we can. And we couldn't do it without our partners, right? Our fundraiser efforts. These are the people that every year we go to them, we knock on their door, we send them letters and saying, are y'all willing to give to the teachers, to help, do the innovative grants? And without a doubt, we always get a yes from them. And without them, like I said, it would be almost impossible to raise the amount of money that we do. So here's a little bit of numbers. Financial summary was, for the public support and revenue, a little bit small scales there. You can see up there. Eventually, the Creek brought in a little bit over $6,000. But our big one, like I said, dinner and auction, brought over $60,000 this year. And again, it's just, I think what is happening, people are realizing what we're actually doing this for and getting excited that the teachers get to use this money for the students, straight to the students. The programs that were funded for the ITG grants were $29,628, like I said in the latter show, and funded scholarships, it was $10,500 this year. As president this year, I've already asked to the board if we can raise that for this year. We want to give a little bit more. We are getting to a level that we're financially stable and making sure the kids get the most money that they can receive. So we're pretty excited that this year we should be able to push that numbers a little bit higher. And again, our assets, what we have, it's a little bit over $51,000 in BFCU. We do have a $20,000 CD and bank and trust. We do a money market at $50,000 at bank and trust as well. And Texas Community Bank, we have a little bit over $80,000. Again, so this is one of the reasons why I wanted to push the next year we do a little bit more. We also feed every single teacher across the district. We pick a day or a couple days to go out there to tell them thank you for what they've done. This year we got them a clear bag that they can go use for a clear bag policy, so in the Ram stadiums or across the concerts that they go to, and we fed them just a lunch, a simple lunch, on our part, but for the great work they do day in and day out. And at this time, if you have any questions, these are a couple of slides for a couple. I think it was last year where we did the Young Authors of Del Rio grant to a teacher, and they were so excited. They went to the library, they were able to sign because their books that they published were actually sold on Amazon. So that was a big win for them. Kids were super excited, and they had a signing for their book at the library. So this is by far, something, one of the best things that I'm part of. I'm super excited to be the leader and the president this year. And with your support, we'd love to continue doing what we're doing. Any questions at this time?
I'll turn it over to board members. I want to thank you again, each and every one of you that belongs to the Education Foundation. It is exciting to see every recipient of scholarships, and for those teachers that are doing the innovative projects, it's amazing to see, the joy once their name or project is announced at the teacher convocation. And we see all the excitement at the auction with our vendors that come from out of town and trying to outbid each other. And that's all for the good of our teachers and our children that we, again, have the scholarships for. So again, we appreciate all the work that goes on behind the scenes. I know there's a lot of work that goes on with all the projects that you all have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll continue with the second report, item 8B, project proposal for middle school 2025-2026, grade level configuration, Sandra Hernandez and Dr. Rios.
Good evening, Board President Mesa, members of the board. Later on in the agenda, we will ask the board to take action based on administration's recommendation to implement a middle school grade level reconfiguration. We had a community forum where all of y'all were present this past week. We had a number of parents. So I'm not going to go into as much detail in the presentation, but I just want to recap what we're asking the board to take action on and provide any opportunity to answer any questions that may still need to be answered by trustees before we take action. We discussed the need to have 3 middle schools versus the current setting where we have a 6th grade center and we have a large middle school. I mentioned that in the entire state of Texas, out of 1,200 districts, there are only 25 6th grade centers. That configuration hardly exists anymore. I also mentioned that, I'm so sorry. I also mentioned that in the state of Texas, you're going to be hard pressed to find a middle school that houses up to 1,500 students, sometimes 1,600 students of just 7th and 8th grade. And the reason is because that is such a critical age where students are transitioning from elementary to high school. Unfortunately, over the last 2 years, even though TA has not published the ratings due to lawsuits, we know that our middle school has a score higher than a 60, higher than a D. And as hard as our teachers work, and as I mentioned, there are some pretty heroic efforts that go that happen on a daily basis, we have not been able to have those relationships that yield high attendance and high passing rates. Instead, we have low attendance and a lot of failure rates. Most of our numbers in summer school are middle school students. And again, we're all aware of the culture and climate that gets beaten up in social media anytime something occurs at Del Rio Middle School. Student participation, although we have a lot of activities, because of the size of it, is limited to a select number of students. And the enrollment decreases at sixth grade, seventh and eighth grade, then slightly increases back at eighth grade. The reality is that there is a problem at Del Rio Middle School, and for the last 20 years, we've had some okay years, and then we've had a lot of years, but we haven't had great years. And we understand why the school was built, but it's just time that some action be taken to be able to provide students a setting where they can successfully transition and be well prepared for high school. The key, or I should say the metrics for which we will measure our success if we redesign the middle school years will be the relationships, the academic success, and obviously the number of students that participate in our graduation programs. Although we have students that are incredibly successful at the high school, we have students that finish early college high school, we have students that get CTE certifications, we have students that go on and get accepted into prestigious universities. But the reality is, at the end of the day, is that that is a small number of students compared to the bigger students that have to graduate with a whole lot of credit recovery courses, or students that we depend to graduate from the blended academy. And we're very proud of the support that we provide to students. But we should be able to graduate more students with higher certifications, more students with college hours, and less students depending on credit recovery. But to do all that, we absolutely must do a better job at Del Rio Middle School. And again, it isn't because the teachers don't try there, but it is because we focus on structure and safety and are too big to focus on successful academic interaction. As I mentioned before, the plan is to convert 3 schools into 3 small 6th through 8th grade campuses. Every campus would have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade cohort of no more than 250 students. One group would be at Del Rio Middle School, which means Del Rio Middle School would serve 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. San Felipe Memorial would serve 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and Garfield Elementary would serve 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. So then some questions is, what would happen to the Garfield enrollment? Okay, approximately 300 students would attend a neighborhood school at Garfield at Blended Academy. Blended Academy has ample room to serve 375 students. We would serve about 300 students. And then the remaining students would be zoned to the school that is nearest their address. Now, the actions approved, the next steps would be to conduct parent and staff meetings for the 3 schools affected, Del Rio Middle School, San Felipe, and Garfield. Then we would have the demographer propose a study of where the schools would draw their students from. We would hope that the board also approves a facility and operations citizens committee. That's also a presentation that's going to follow. And we would also want to have a survey to get as much input from the families. Just a recap of what we discussed at length last week. Are there any questions from board members at this time, Mr. Mesa?
I'll turn it over to board members. Amy Haynes.
So I was able to watch a little bit of it on YouTube because I had to leave. But my concern is that We've got the community input, but we have not reached out, or we haven't been able to reach out or talk to teachers in this Garfield Elementary campus and the campuses that are going to get the extra children, the children that are coming there. So I'd like for us to have some feedback with those teachers and that, those staff, because those are the ones that are going to be impacted the most to me, having to move again. So as far as like the teachers that became the librarians and the art teachers that became went back to the classroom, they're going to be moved again, maybe. So I'd like to get some input from the teachers. I'd like to hear from them since we've already heard from the community. And I'm not sure if you've already got that scheduled for us to be able to hear how they feel and their input and their ideas, but that's my concern on that we haven't really heard from staff.
We did mention at the community forum that once the board took action, that we were going to have faculty meetings with the 3 campuses that are directly affected immediately. And then we were going to have additional parent meetings at every one of the elementary campuses and ask the principals to invite all of the PTO and extended members.
Is there
So-
any way that that staff could be before? Because, I was able to hear the community, but I'd really like to hear the staff before we make a move.
It is.
I don't know if that's possible, but that's my concern at the time.
It is absolutely possible. It is the board's decision. It is not my recommendation
Okay,
because I know the amount of work that's involved moving forward.
Right.
And anything that comes up from the teachers is going to be relayed to the board. And if we have to make any adjustments in that plan, then we will definitely move forward. But in terms of working with a demographer, working with the principals for the programs, the bell schedules, all of this would take a lot of time.
right.
And it is our desire to get moving on it as quick as possible because we want to have as many campuses, all the facilities ready for this coming August. So I believe that we'll get enough time to hear a lot from the staff. But in terms of moving forward with a demographer and moving forward with everything else that needs to happen, it is urgent. It's more urgent just because I think that every day that we have the type of setting that we have for years, it's just one less day the students are being appropriately prepared, and being ready for August is the primary goal.
Right, and don't get me wrong, but I do agree with you. Something needs to be done. But like I said, absolutely something needs to be done, but I kind of wanted to just get some input from staff and as well. So that's it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Amy. Anyone else? Mr. Overelt?
So like has been mentioned earlier, we did have some community members who were here and gave input on it. I know many of us have had conversations with individuals within the community as after this was kind of announced that it was going to go forward. To echo some of the items that Ms. Haynes has been talking about there, I do still worry about going in and visiting with teachers and staff on that before what we're supposed to do tonight. I really wish we could have gone in and done that. And I know you said it's ultimately the board's decision, while not your recommendation. One item, because it will come up later, as this moves forward, regardless, is there's an item 14B that deals with asking TEA for waivers for class size. There, because we have several campuses that'll have that, are over the TEA mandated 22 to 1 in a classroom. So when we draw down Garfield to its ideal size of about no more than 300 students and disperse those other
students out to the other campuses closest to their neighborhood, have we looked at what it's going to, are we going to incur and have to ask TEA for more waivers? Because I know fifth and up, it doesn't, we don't have to have the waivers for fifth and up, but your smaller grades, it goes in and starts to become, for the teacher, it's more students equals, just a bigger classroom, and we know how second graders and third graders can be sometimes. So by going in and drawing down Garfield and dispersing out to the other campuses, do we see do we see possibly the need for more TEA waivers in the next coming 2 years?
So anytime students move to different campuses, the students follow the students where they go. Purely by economies of scale, you're less likely to have waivers required because there's more teachers at the campus. So it just happens to be that often the larger campuses have less need for waivers because you just have more teachers to divide more students among, and you don't have those singletons where they have 23, 24 students. Garfield, if you notice on the list that we shared with you, doesn't have any waivers. And it's not necessarily because they have enough teachers, but because you're not, it's been my experience working in other districts that TA does not approve waivers for low-performing schools. So we just don't submit waivers for low-performing schools. We hire teachers or we transfer teachers. Long answer, sir, no, we don't foresee any additional need for increased waivers because of the rezoning.
Okay. Another one, just two more, and then I'll be done, sir. Another one was that while I wasn't on the board, I know that it was, the impact was felt for several years when East Side was shut down, and then those teachers were moved off to other campuses. And there was, it took a little while for integration to occur in the sense of teachers feeling welcome on a new campus and stuff. If we go this route, will the district provide all moving and transportation of goods from X campus to A campus, depending on where they ultimately end up, those who will not stay at Garfield, as well as those who would be moved from the 7th and 8th grade to the 6th grade or to Garfield Middle School, so forth, for each one? So they're
Yes,
not having
sir.
to incur.
Absolutely. We'll provide services for moving. We'll provide boxes. We'll do all of that.
Okay. And we will move them where they won't have to load it up into their own personal vehicles. It'll go door to door, and then they'll have to set up, obviously.
Yes, sir.
The last thing, and I know you said it's not going to be your recommendation there, but I think there is a interest in talking with being able to get feedback, not just from the teachers and staff, but I think there still are some other parents that, having at least one more forum. And you talk about the urgency is 3 weeks reasonable to say, can we come back, call a special meeting on October 7th to come back and actually hold this, and that gives us about 2.5 weeks to go in and visit visit each one of those campuses and so forth, and maybe have one more forum.
It's a board's decision. I've always said, it's your budget, it's your kids, your schools, I'm just running it. But it is I think that, like Ms. Haynes said, it's, we know something has to be done. So what the ultimate outcome will be can definitely get shaped from all the input that we get. But in terms of moving forward with the studies and the work, 3 weeks does make a lot of difference, at least from the administration. So we're not committing to saying we're going to follow everything the way the superintendent wants it outlined, because that's not the goal here at all. The goal is to come up with a reconfiguration of grade levels for next year and incorporate that. That doesn't mean that based on the input, we don't come back and make a change. We're very open to that because we want it to be ultimately successful. But every day that goes by does make it more difficult to get things done. But again, we will act as y'all choose tonight.
Okay, so just want to go back to what you said. If, as it moves forward, if we could prove that as it moves forward and something occurs that requires change there or redistribution of it, off the top of your head, what could be something that we get into it 2 months into it, 3 months into it, and what would be a big trigger event that says, okay, we've got to
Yes, sir.
go in and look at a redesigning or pulling it entirely or whatever it might go in and be?
One of the important aspects of this redesign is to have a citizens committee that we're going to talk about in the next agenda item, so that they can be part of as many meetings. So for example, when we have the meetings with the campuses, when we have the meetings with the parents, when we work with a demographer, so they can be very transparent, so that everybody knows what everybody said. But the demographic study would be one item. The demographer is going to be tasked with ensuring that there is a balance between socioeconomic status of students amongst all three campuses. And the demographer may recommend schools be divided in a certain way. The parents could possibly say, can we look at this? Can we consider this other organization? That would be one possibility. Perhaps having some interested teachers on the committee, even though the recommendation that we're going to make here in a little while doesn't immediately include teachers. So the demographics could be one of them. The money that is available right now to make some of the changes to the campuses, they might ask that we make other changes before we move forward. And then we'd have to figure out if the money is there and just how important these changes are between now and August. So there's a whole lot of input, whether it be from alignment to facilities, and as we move forward with bell schedules for the students, transportation routes, all of that. So there could be a whole lot of input and the need to make some changes. Some people might recommend that, that we downsize, but that we keep 3 different transitions. Again, I've said it before that I am not for that at all, but that could possibly be a discussion. But I wouldn't be for that.
Okay. Yeah, and as I stated at the forum, and I'll state it here also, yes, it's something that definitely needs to be looked at from the sense of not just the academic side of it there, but 750 on a campus is much easier to control and implement safety procedures than a campus of 1,500 is spread out over 2 floors. So it's definitely something needed. I just wanted to bring up some questions and concerns that have been passed along to me. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rafael. Mr. Almaraz?
Yeah, I've just got one quick one, and just kind of piggybacking on what Mr. Oberfelt mentioned earlier about 14B and the the redistribution of our students to these campuses. I know do we have the classroom vacancies to house these students at these campuses? Not teacher vacancies, just classroom. Are there empty classrooms? Because let's say it's 300 That's about 13 empty classrooms if we have 22 students per kid. Do we have 13 vacant classrooms where they can fit in and, kind of plug and play and not have to build anything after the redistribution of kids?
Yes, sir. We're talking about having 12 to 13 classrooms combined between Buena Vista, Lonnie Green, and Calderon. And there are absolutely more than enough rooms available at those three campuses, because those are the ones that would receive the additional students.
Anyone else? I've got several questions, so I know it's a sense of urgency because the last two superintendent evaluations, we've had this as a goal, the middle school. But I'm hearing from members, and I feel like we're kind of rushing into it, that we had a town hall meeting, but I do feel like staff is just as important, if not more. But my questions refer to, I went to Garfield because I lived in the neighborhood here, and I want to make sure that all three are equitable in resources, and I'm thinking library, computer labs, equipment for science. There's so many things that come to mind because I want to make sure that they all have the same opportunity. And in my mind, I'm trying to think like, we don't have a library, a student guidance and learning center. We don't have a computer lab. Probably the wiring is not there for computers, and it just goes on. But in the matter of resources, for example, sixth grade is already doing labs and things of that nature, and yet when we divide the resources that we have now, there's a lot of purchases that need to be made, and so that's a sense of urgency to make sure that we have the equal amount of resources for the three different locations. And as I remind the board, that has been one of the goals for superintendent evaluation, the middle school, and it's difficult. I understand, I think both of us, Dr. Rios and myself, were principals at that campus, and it's very difficult to manage. We understand that. I just want to make sure that it's equal, again, facilities for the three different sites that have been suggested. And when they say equal, again, computer lab, library, science equipment, resources, everything that's involved with the labs that sixth grade students are supposed to conduct. Everything from Erlenmeyer flash to beakers to prisms and so forth. Simple machines, everything that's involved, not just for science, but with all the different subject matter. Calculators, and they started using calculators at 7th and 8th grade. And so I want to make sure that there's plenty of equipment that has to be divided into three different sites. Those are some of the concerns that I have. I'm sure that we need to purchase additional library books and things of that nature. But more than anything, just want to make sure that we have the computer labs that the other schools have. And, when we talk about teacher resources, do they even have a resource room, for the equipment that is housed in the teacher resource room? So those are some things that need to be addressed. But I feel the same sentiment in regard to I need input from staff. And I'm glad Amy brought that up because I think all of us realize, we have special call meetings all the time. I just want to make sure that staff input is just as important. So whatever can be done when we arrive to making a decision. I know that you're doing the report for additional advice and input from board members, but anyone else? Yeah. Mr. Olino.
just to, also continue on it, just as important, as it was, we listened to the community and listening, we want to just continue on and make sure we're listening to the parents and to the students as well. And the staff, and I know we're going to get into the report for the district facility and operations citizens committee, and just to look at this, to also continue listening. This can be changed as well, right, Dr. Reels, to add more. So we wanted to make sure we included teachers from every grade level or every school. That can be added on here as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. And, it is equally as important, like everybody's saying here, to make sure we gather that input for this type of decision, because it is a big decision, and there can be a lot of people affected. And while I do feel we are going in the right direction by looking at these things, I just want to make sure that we did allow the ability for everybody to give input and open the opportunity to allow that input, whether it be from parents again, or from the staff members, as we're saying, if we can go visit them as a group and hear their inputs and the concerns of what's going to be going on. So that would just be where I kind of want to also see it as well, to get more input, to ensure that we're making sure we're continuing with the transparency, to let them know exactly what's going to be going on and speak to them fully. And so we're also aware of any concerns that could come up that can change how this whole thing would work.
So I hear the concerns from the board. So here is an option. Okay, here's one option that I think it'll maybe make the board feel better about moving forward. So how about we do this? How about I recommend to the board that we approve the contract with a demographer so that I can get him started. But instead of approving the reorganization today, we have a special call meeting. And at that special call meeting, we will take action on moving forward with a reorganization and moving forward with officially approving the Citizens Committee. Because today, we're not asking you to approve the Citizens Committee, we're just asking for feedback on our recommendation for the Citizens Committee. And that way, we will agree on a day for you will agree on a day for a special call meeting. And at that special call meeting, we will take action on those two items. But to help us get started, we approved the contract with a demographer so I can get to working with that person, because for them, it's getting the data aligned and making sure that their database is complete. And the other activities that I would do, I can get started working on those. They don't cost any money. And I'll just start working towards it. And I'll also have a meeting with the staff at each one of the campuses, a faculty meeting before then. And then I'll make that known so that some of the people that have already asked to be on the committee, some of the parents, can be on it, and as well any board member that wants to go hear what the teachers say. Would that work?
That sounds good.
Yes.
And could we possibly schedule another forum, just at maybe even at 6:30, allow some time to get some parents over here and just hear one more time. We're in large setting to allow people to time.
Absolutely.
I mean, 5:30 was, I get it, right? We did it, at 5:30, but maybe the time will help some people at 6:30, get the kiddos to practice, come over here, whatever it may be, and maybe have one more town hall before we have that.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we'll table the item to approve the reconfiguration. I'll still present the item for the hiring the demographer. Y'all will tell me which day works for a special call meeting. Between now and then, I'll have a meeting at each one of the affected campuses.
And we'll be able to go to those meetings, right? Because that's my whole point of wanting to hear what the staff. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we've always encouraged
Okay.
boards to attend those meetings.
It sounds a lot better. Becky has a question. Becky Chance.
Yes, well, I'm just looking and hearing and listening to all the concerns that the board has. And I would agree with you getting setting up the demographer to continue. And so, I mean, we have to, if this is going to happen, there needs to be a start. There needs to be another start. You know, we're opening another town hall, which is okay, fine, but that's, how shall I put it? It's gonna bring a lot more concerns, which we're interested. We're interested in all the concerns. We did have a town hall meeting. We did hear the voices of the citizens. And as I stated in the meeting, we wish we had had more citizens of our community present, but it didn't happen. We had quite a few, but not as much as I would have liked to have had to hear the concerns. But I'm just saying that as a board, I feel we're going to be looking at every aspect of the movement, but we need to get, if it's going to be done, we need to initiate a starting point. And I feel that with the demographer, perhaps that would be like you're saying, and tabling this so that we can have more discussions. But concerns are going to be there as it goes on. So that's not going to end. I think that when there's a change, when there's a move, there's going to be a lot of concerns, which we will look at, we will listen, but we need to get started on something. I don't know if I made myself clear, but I mean, we can be talking, but we need to initiate a beginning.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to another date, a special call board meeting, but in the meantime, when we come to that item, we can approve the demographer or make a decision on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yeah, that way we get to do both things. We get to get started on the work and provide an opportunity for more input from everybody, and I hope that we can maybe push it a little bit more so that maybe we can have some people show up.
And you can provide the updates on faculty meetings so we can attend.
Yeah, I'm sure that sitting behind me, I'm sure Sandra Hernandez is already thinking of calendar dates, so we'll get those in short order.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to the next report, which is item 8C, District Facility and Operations Citizens Committee. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. As you heard a little earlier, one of the steps in the process of the consideration of the realignment of the middle school is to also consider the establishment of a citizens committee, District Facility and Operations Citizens Committee. And so this evening, what I'm going to present to you is just what that committee would do, just to give you an overview of what that committee would, how this committee would help this process. So the proposal is to seek the establishment of a District Facility and Operations Citizens Committee. And what the committee would do is to review the ways to enhance the working, the teaching, learning environment of all staff and students. They would also evaluate any capital of improvements that are needed in the district, and they would provide recommendations to the Board of Trustees on any short and long range plans. So the District Facility and Operations Committee will act as an advisory committee to the board in the planning for the development of future capital improvements. And in this particular case, since we're talking about committee membership, you can decide what your committee makeup will be. So we give you an example of what this proposal looks like. The board appoints 7 members. Each one of you will appoint one committee member to the board, to this particular committee. Superintendent can appoint 4 members to this particular committee. And they will participate in a series of meetings in which they will lead to discussions, input, recommendations to the Board of Trustees for whatever comes next. The charge of the committee, because we're talking about middle school redesign, is about middle school redesign. We mentioned earlier, Dr. Rios mentioned the demographic study. So this committee would look at the demographic study, would take a look and discuss the facility improvements, any changes or any recommendations in that process for the middle school redesign. So this committee is going to look at the proposed plan, look at the reconfiguration, look at the ideas that are being proposed, and then discuss and offer a recommendation to the board. So their work should honor also the work of the prior citizens committees. And so they have a charge, and this is what they will do. They will focus on this middle school reconfiguration and anything else that comes with that process. The proposed meetings, we propose anywhere from 3 to 4 meetings. It all depends on, first, the demographic study. That demographic study has to happen first. Certainly, your appointments of the membership and what that committee looks like. So we're proposing somewhere between mid to late October, not to begin this process, but certainly, as the discussion was a little earlier, we can certainly adjust that timeline. Meetings will be conducted in the evenings, late enough so that we have participants come in for collaboration and participation. So we'll be working with committee members that you appoint. Are there any questions? It's pretty much the general makeup of this particular committee or representatives from staff, as you opened up the discussion earlier, members of our parents that are attending middle schools. This is entirely up to you.
Questions, board members? Sandra, I have one question for you. If I've had already 2 volunteers, if I can select one, and then can I turn in a name for that person to be either a committee of
Yes, sir.
Dr. Rios or a parent?
During this last town hall meeting, we were able to appoint some names, but I'm going to let
Okay, Dr. Rios?
Dr. Rios.
The makeup of the committee is entirely up to the board. You could say that you want 2 members per board member. Or you could possibly say that you want to have 1 member from the community, whether it be a parent or just a community member at large, and 1 teacher. Really, it's y'all let us know, and then we'll prepare for it for next week. I recommended 4 people from the superintendent, primarily because it would be a lot of the administrators that would be leading that work, and they need to be present at the meetings. But as far as who the board chooses to appoint, you could make it 2 members per board member. You can make it 2 per board member and 1 teacher. It is entirely a board decision.
Okay. I just want to make sure that at the first town hall meeting, I had 2 volunteers, sorry. So, okay, we'll come to a conclusion in regards to 1 or 2.
Is there any other feedback from the board so that we can prepare of what you would rather see as far as membership per board member?
Probably something along that lines of 2 and 1.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so we'll begin talking to each board member about having 2 community at large members and 1 teacher.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Okay, next report we have is item 8D, facilities and construction updates. Mr. Hector Chapa.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios.
Sorry, Mr. Chapa, before we begin, because I forgot to do something earlier today with this facilities and construction report. I meant to include, to inform the board that at this point, all of the buses that Mr.
Cabello.
Thomas Cabello had to scrap to be in compliance with have already been scrapped, 100% of them. So that should have been part of this report. I apologize. Mr. Cabello is here. If you have any questions about that scrapping the process. Okay, sir, I apologize.
Today's presentation will include the update on the construction project on Cardwell Elementary, the fence, as well as some maintenance projects throughout the district. Currently, the Cardwell Elementary fence project is approximately 70% complete. The contractor is working on the last sliding gate along Main Street, which is nearest the library, and is scheduled to be completed by the end of the week. There's approximately 400 feet left of the remaining fence to be completed. The maintenance projects that had been worked on recently and completed was some canopies at Cardwell Elementary, as well as playground equipment. As part of that project, we also added ADA compliant sidewalks leading to the playgrounds behind Building A, in between Building A and Building F.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I interject? Can you go back one slide? If the board really went forward, if the board will recall, we completed ADA study for both Cardwell and Ceniza Hills. Ceniza because it was a new campus, Cardwell because there was a need to do that, especially because we had transitioned 3 and 4-year-olds to that campus. And the staff completed a whole lot of the improvements. I believe this fence was contracted out. I'm sorry, not the fence, the sidewalk was contracted out.
That is correct.
So at this point, we feel that we're in compliance with the ADA requirements for that campus. So we appreciate the parent that worked with us on making sure this happened, and obviously on the staff for staying on top of that. So it's more than just a sidewalk, it's a whole ADA list of items that was done. This was just probably the biggest one. Thanks, sir.
Additionally, last week, staff completed installation of a new 6-foot-high fence from at middle school, from the tennis courts to the building, as well as down to the lower level in the visitor parking lot area to ensure the safety and security of the campus.
Again, another note on that. We get audited by TEA at least once a semester for the safety of each campus. And the last year, Del Rio Middle School was cited on both audits, and it all had to do with having access to the back of the school and not really channeling the visitors or any of the traffic to the main entrance of the school. So with the erection of these fences, that should take care of that issue. So again, that fence was erected by our staff, so thank you, Mr. Chapa, for that.
Yes, sir. Additionally, recently at Calderon Elementary, staff installed netting for the soccer goals as well as the basketball courts. And grass or seeding had taken place in the area in the park, in the playground area. So with the recent rain, it helped out tremendously. The irrigation system, sprinkler system, also was fixed by staff.
Another note on this item, a lot of the board members visited Calderon Elementary at the beginning of the school year. On top of the areas that we are addressing on the outside, we did solicit a design from interior designer to to see how the inside could be improved at Calderon Elementary. So that person is going to be here tomorrow, I believe, Mr. Chapa. Is that?
He was here
sometime-
last week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, he was
He
here
was
last
here
week.
last week.
Time flies by.
Yeah. And we're expecting some feedback in the, possibly next week.
That's good.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Orfeld?
Can we do Lonnie Green next? Can we do Lonnie Green next in the back? Because it's nothing but rocks and dirt.
Of course, if board directs us to, definitely.
That'd be great to do some seeding and bring in a grader and grade where they run back there.
Absolutely.
Now we'll touch upon the work or tickets summaries. Our maintenance department from June through end of August, they received a total of 1,276 tickets. 1,078 were closed for a closure rate of 84%. On the 0 to 15 days, the closure rate is 82%. 16 to 30 days, 86%. 31 to 60 days, 82%. 61 to 90 days, 87%. For the technology department, they received a total of 3,477. 3,232 were closed for a closure rate of 93%. 0 to 15 days, 83%. 16 to 30 days, 90%. 31 to 60 days, 99%. And 61 to 90 days, 99% as well. Transportation Department, they received 177 tickets. 166 were closed for a closure rate of 94%. 0 to 15 days, 88%. 16 to 30 days, 94%. 31 to 60 days, 91%. And 60 to 90 days, 100%. Any questions?
Board members, questions?
I've got one.
Yes, Mr. Almaraz?
Just real quick, back to slide 4 or 5 or whatever that was with the ADA compliant sidewalks. Do we have any plans to, I mean, I see the sidewalks, they look great, great access to the playground area there, but I see pea gravel. Do we have something to eventually make the playground area kind of like the way Ceniza Hills is, where they can, they can use wheelchairs or whatever they have to be able to access the playground? Because there, I mean, it's pea gravel, and you've got these sidewalks leading to the pea gravel. It'd be kind of difficult to get some kind of.
I believe that, where's Mr. Talamantes? Dr. Talamantes? I believe one of them is pea gravel and one of them is mulch. Yep, so one of the playgrounds does have mulch in it. I believe the one that you're looking there on the right has mulch and the one on the left has pea gravel. But we'll visit with, we'll visit, make a note, Mr. Chapa, with Dr. Talamantes and get their feedback on how these would be more accessible to everybody.
That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Almaraz. Anyone else? Mr. Chapa, I just have one question in regard to the fencing at Cardwell. I know a lot of people in the evening use the track to walk. It'll be open in the evenings, just like Ceniza Hills. Dr. Bruce?
So the lower field will be open, and we hope that at some point we could work with the city to develop some kind of a walking trail down there, even if it's with that crushed granite. The top part, the track, because we built parking there, the track is only halfway. But we want to work with the city to see if we can develop some kind of walking track on the bottom.
Okay. Because I know in the evening, there's a lot of people that use it for walking. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is a consent agenda. There's a couple of, there's one meeting, and again, lots of purchases there. If any questions on any item in the consent agenda, again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. So if you have a question on any of these purchases, now's the time to do that. Or if there's something that, again, you would like more information on, now's the time to do that. Mr. Orfeld?
So I have two quick questions on F4 and G8.
F4, consideration to approve a purchase order over $25,000 with Electrotechnics Corporation in the amount not to exceed $27,863. Funding source, general funds, security for the purchase of AC Hawk pedestrian crossing device. And I think we had a picture of it in the,
Yeah. One, thank you, Chief Foz and administration, for finally getting this to become a realization, because of the fact that I see this every day and have since we put the ECHS in effect of students crossing between ECHS and Southwest Texas, and on many occasions nearly getting hit because of people not realizing it's state law if someone's in a crosswalk to stop. I'm glad now we'll go in and we'll have a much more visual thing there with the lights to it. And I was looking at what was in the packet, and it appears that it's going to be the two standoff, one on each side there. Did we consider at all, or was it just cost prohibitive, or just whatever it might have been, as instead of just the standing on each side, but having the one that comes up and then comes across, and you have your lights above the lanes as opposed off to the sides there? Because I looked up on their website, and they have it where you can put it on a, like a normal light pole comes up and over, and you can have it set up that way, or the two there. I just didn't know if that was a consideration or anything that was talked about between us and the city and that there, but I'm glad it's being done finally.
So the Chief Boss was in communication with them to select the one that could be more appropriately installed. I don't have any specifics as to why that one was preferred over the other one. I imagine maybe for being an obstacle to traffic that passes by there, but I really couldn't tell you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I was curious about there. But again, thank you so very much for finally getting this, and I know the college will be, the college and the kids will be happy that this is in place to hopefully bring a little more visualization to our citizens who like to blow through there while kids are in the crosswalk. And then on I don't know why I said G8. It should have been G5, sorry. The contract with DLP for RCE. A lot of initials there. I'm just curious as to how many custodians we still have employed there versus what this 60,000 will cover as, what we spend in benefits versus what this will cover.
The contract that we're going to have with DOP, it's going to be on a per campus basis, but it's only going to be for the afternoon crew at each campus. The campus will continue to have the morning shift that helps out with breakfast, lunch, and anything else that needs to be cleaned and maintained during the day. It's the general cleaning that happens in the evening, the sweeping, mopping the floors of every single classroom, and that's a transition that we're going to make campus by campus. In this particular instance, the district will save $50,000 to the budget. We hope to be able to have that type of savings throughout the district, and this is one of the strategies to reduce the 1.5 deficit that we have going into the next school year. So 50,000 at a time will definitely add up in that direction.
And it's via attrition, not
Well,
walking papers.
Yes, sir. It is via attrition.
Okay.
However, to be entirely transparent, there are people that have to be transferred from one campus to the next, because you might have one vacancy at one campus, two vacancies at another. So we do have to transfer people so that we can move in that direction as soon as possible. But we are not on purpose, having people resign or retire.
Okay, good deal. Appreciate it.
Anyone else with a question with, again, the consent agenda? Mr. Galindo?
It's just a direct question, Dr. Rose, we can answer just on F4 again with the, the beacon light. What is the timeline for this?
On,
For the
Oh,
pedestrian crossing device and the installation? What is the timeline they're looking at, sir?
Chief Foss, do you know the turnaround time to receive the light once we do the purchase order?
On the quote, it's at a turnaround rate of about 8 weeks
8 weeks?
before we receive the crosswalk, and then it'll be up to the city to install it.
We'll work with the city as soon as we order it so that they know that it'll arrive with eight weeks, and hopefully we can have a whole lot of the infrastructure in place before then.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And as always, we're grateful for donations that our school district has received, either from individuals or businesses. Again, we will post these on social media.
Already posted, sir.
Okay, so again, we thank all the individuals that donated to our district. We appreciate everything that, all the assistance that we get from different businesses and individuals. So thank you very much. Then I'll, if there's no further questions from board members, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Again, motion made by Mr. Overfeld, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Okay. We approved the consent agenda unanimously. We go on to administration. First item we have is 10A, consideration to approve the first reading of TASB localized policy manual update 123 affecting policies DGBA local, EEH local, EF local, EFA local, EFB local, FNG local, and GF local. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening once again, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. The district's Board Policy Review Committee met on Wednesday, September the 11th, to review a second set of policies, drafts presented by TASB for Policy Manual Update 123. In this group of policies, extensive revisions within the CKE policy series and restructuring of the DIA series necessitated an update to the policies that reference the complaint processes found in 3 of the policies that we currently have, which are DGBA local, which is the employee grievance policy, the FNG local, which is the student grievance policy, and the GF local, which is the public complaint policy. There are no changes in the processes of the complaint processes within these policies. They're only updates to include references to 2 policies that need to be included within each of these policies. TEA's revision to the Student's Attendance Accounting Handbook prompted recommended edits to EEH policy, which describes that students may now receive homebound services for psychological as well as medical conditions. And in order to clarify the differences in requirements for instructional materials and library materials, as well as to accommodate new library collection development standards, policy EF local is recommended for deletion and is divided, recommendation is to divide them into 2 separate policies, which is EFA for instructional materials and EFB for library materials. And due to the content of that EF policy, as I mentioned earlier, that policy is recommended for deletion. Do you have any questions?
And again, the reminder that this goes through the Policy Review Committee. So questions from board members that are in that committee have already been asked. And so it's a matter of wording sometimes and just updating some of the verbiage on the policies. Any questions from board members? No questions? Then you want to read the recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 123 affecting policies DGBA local, personnel management relations, employee grievances and complaints, EEH local, instructional arrangements, homebound instruction, EF local, instructional resources, EFA local, instructional resources, instructional materials, EFB local, instructional resources, library materials, FNG local, student rights and responsibilities, student and parent complaints and grievances, and GF local, public complaints as presented.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Item 10B, consideration to approve project proposal for middle school. This we're going to table, but Dr. Rios, the demographic one,
Yeah.
demographer
Yes, sir.
will be later on.
That's item C. So if I could just make a recommendation on to table.
Okay,
Is the
Then-
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Dr. Rios.
Mr. Mesa, members of the board, it is the recommendation of the administration that item 10B, consideration to approve the project proposal for middle school 2026 grade level reconfiguration be tabled until a special call meeting to be held in October.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We go on to items 10C, consideration to approve contract over 5,000 with Zonda Education in the amount not to exceed 20,000. Funding source, general funds, pupil services for demographic services. Dr. Rios.
Yes, Mr. Mesa, keeping with the discussion we just had, I'd like to recommend that we be allowed to move forward with hiring a demographer so that we can begin to set the data tables that will be used in rezoning and reorganization.
Okay, I think all of us have been able to ask questions, and so with that being said, the recommendation.
Yes, Mr. Mesa, members of the board, it is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the contract over $5,000 with Zonda Education, the amount of $20,000 for demographic services, and authorize the superintendent to sign the contract.
For the recommendation, motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We go on to business and finance. Item 13A, consideration to approve depository bid contract, RFP 25-09. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. At the August board meeting, depository bid RFP 25-09 was approved by the board and awarded to Texas Community Bank. At this time, we are bringing the depository bid contract for approval. And this contract will begin July 1st, 2025 and end on June 30th, 2027.
Any questions from board members? Hearing none. Recommendation.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the depository bid contract with Texas Community Bank beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending on June 30th, 2027, and authorize the board president to sign the contract.
For the recommendation, there's a motion by Mr. Galindo, a second by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
I was just telling her that I'd speak to the next item.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Item 13A, business and finance, consideration to approve, 13B, consideration to approve the 2025 Valverde County Appraisal District budget. Dr. Rios.
Yes, Mr. Mesa, this item sometimes doesn't come to the board because if the board takes no action, then the Valverde County Appraisal District's approved budget is then approved by this Board of Trustees. Administration was asked to gather some information and then share the budget with y'all Ms. Jacqueline Casanova is here if you have any questions. But I have to share with you that if the board wants to take any action, then the board has to move for that type of action. If there is no motion on the part of the board, then the budget will be automatically approved. So I don't know if you all have any actions for me, for Ms. Childress, or for Ms. Casanova?
I do have a concern, and I just want to mention this in, again, at our meeting here, is that we were not able to provide a step increase for our staff. In the past couple of years, we have made, as a board, when we give a step, we look at an increase 2-3%, and the same thing goes pretty much to the superintendent. We were not able to do a step. We were able to do a stipend, and this has been a very difficult year. We had to do a reorganization of staff. We had to let some of the staff go. We have less cabinet members. We had to reassign some of the art and music teachers. And so it was a difficult year because we did not get the funding from the 88th legislative session. There was $6 billion that was earmarked for education. Governor Abbott had a committee to look into teacher shortage. There was a bill that was recommended to have the increase for teacher salaries, and again, to recruit teachers into the teaching field. That didn't happen. No vote was taken. I'm having second thoughts in regard to this budget because pretty much what I saw was a cost of living increase and a step increase, which amounted to about 5%. And as I mentioned, normally we have pretty much trained the superintendent that we give a raise to the teachers. That's the percentage that you're going to get, either 2 or 3%. This year we gave no raises. There was a stipend for return to work, only for those employees that were here last year. But there's no cost of living, no step increase. And so I'm saying this out loud because what I saw in the budget was a 5% increase. And maybe I'm wrong, Jackie. Would you like to explain that? Yes, by all means.
Okay, good evening, President Mesa, members of the board, Dr. Rios. I did have a conversation with both Amy Childress and Dr. Rios. We've been corresponding back and forth on email, and we do have several appraisers that are moving up in classification. Dr. Rios was aware of it. We do have 3 certified RPA appraisers that are going from one level to the next, and therefore their percentage increase was greater than the rest, and that's the reason why, is because we offer certification pay. So I don't know. Dr. Rios had a breakdown on the percentages that I provided earlier today, and I don't know if he shared that with the board. Yes, sir.
Yes, we have that.
Okay. Okay. So that is the information. So now it's not a 5% across the board. It just varies depending on certification.
And the reason that it comes before us because, again, we're one of the taxing entities.
Yes,
but
sir.
As I mentioned, we had a very difficult year in funding. And I can speak for the district here, but I'll also mention like Comstock, which is in the appraisal district as well. They had to go to a 4-day week to be able to make ends meet. And difficulty in servicing buses. I know they asked for a bus that we could loan them a bus, which we did. And so everybody's trying to we adopted a deficit budget last year, and so financially, we're not doing too well, and we're hoping that the 89th legislative session will do better, but we're in a real bind. I mean, we have to change insurance. We provide 100% of the insurance for our employees, and we have to totally change our insurance provider and get another, again, quote on health services. And so there's many adjustments that have to be made, and an inconvenience is to reassign staff to different locations. But again, the way I feel about it is if we can't give a raise to our own employees, it's hard for me to envision a high percentage going to the employees at the appraisal district. That's my opinion.
I understand completely. I did express on an email that I had sent Dr. Rios and Ms. Childress, and then I think I shared with the rest of the Board of Trustees that we did make a reduction of $84,918.13 from the original draft that was sent out in May, and then that's $38,000, more or less, savings from 2024. So there is a reduction of 2.34% over the entire budget from the current year.
Yeah. And Jackie, I just, again, to kind of reiterate, I can see the appraisers that went up, and certification, and that amount is justified, but I cannot see the rest of all of the employees besides those 3 people that are getting somewhere between 3 and 4%.
So out of the 12 employees, only 4 are not certified. So that's our clerical staff. The rest of the employees are RPA certified. So we do include certification pay within our pay scale, and it was presented to the Board of Directors. I did present 2 options. One option was to do a COLA, a step, and the other option was to do a stipend, something similar to what you're doing. It was for $2,500 though. And so the board, after hearing what it costs to get an RPA certified appraiser from level 1 to level 4, which is almost $50,000 over a 5-year course, then, and we pay for that certification, they opted to go with option 1, which was to stay with a pay scale that was in place.
Option 1, which was what?
I'm sorry?
What was option 1?
Option 1 was to stay with the pay scale, to do the pay steps.
Anyone else? Mr. Horfeld?
Has the city or county approved yet?
No, sir, you're the first one to have it on the agenda.
Mr. Olindo?
On the options that you gave an option of a stipend, an option of the pay scale. Did you give an option to not do any action?
I left the third option open to the Board of Directors to give me a directive as to what they wanted to do. And so they heard my pros and cons to each one of the options, and then I told them we have an option 3 to just blank slate and, just expect a directive from my Board of Directors. They opted to go with option 1.
Dr. Rios?
I know that you have the information that Ms. Casanova has shared with me. I've shared it in the weekly updates as she's been providing it. Now, because you've chosen to have a special call meeting in early October, you can also table this item and get more information as to what the other entities are doing.
Sure.
It's not a problem because the date by which the board needs to take action if they choose to not approve it would be what date, ma'am?
October 14th. And you would have to disapprove the budget by resolution if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. So you have a resolution that your attorney has prepared for you to disapprove the budget, but you don't have to take action. All we have to do, if you still want to disapprove the budget, is to put it on the special call meeting that we're going to have, and then we just have to have it prior to October 14th. I'm just sharing that just so that you know you don't have to do anything today if you're not comfortable with it. It's up to y'all.
There's a piece of paper somewhere up here that has the resolution to disapprove.
Yes, sir.
Terry has it.
Okay.
Anyone else want to interject anything? So, if we, as a board, sign the resolution, that would be to disapprove.
Correct. And because it requires a resolution, the attorney drafted one for y'all.
And it has to be voted on?
Absolutely. Yes. By a majority of the board.
It's up to the board.
We can table it for the next meeting.
Would you like to table it
Table it for the last,
and get additional information?
yes. Mr. Miss. We can table it for October.
For additional information?
See the other entities and see where they stand.
Do you know when this goes before the city and the county?
The city, I believe it's the 24th. The county, I believe it's the 25th. And I might have to look at my phone for dates on that.
But it's definitely in September.
Next week, in fact.
Yeah. And y'all would have the special call meeting in October, so you would definitely know what they're doing by then.
Mr. Mesa, I'd like to make a motion to table till the October meeting.
Okay, there's been a motion to table until the October meeting. A motion by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
We're going to table it. Thank you. Go on to Human Resources, 14A, consideration to approve the interlocal agreement between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and Valverde Regional Medical Center to approve a purchase order over $25,000 in the amount not to exceed $78,777.60. Funding source, general funds, employee benefits. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Since 2016, the district has had an interlocal agreement with Valverde Regional Medical Center for participation in an air ambulance membership program. And we are just bringing this to the board for renewal again for this year. The cost for the district would be the $78,777.60, and that is the same amount that we paid prior years.
Okay, I just want to mention that I ask this question every year. Eagle Pass doesn't pay for air evacuation for the employees. The way they explain it is the county does. And I don't know, this year that we're trying to save as much money as we can, I asked for Dr. Rios to get some additional information, and Dr. Rios got the information, which, again, saved to our employees quite a bit of money. Insurance paid. There were 2 cases where individuals had to be air evacuated to San Antonio. AirVac services were billed to the insurance. Insurance paid. The employee did not pay a single penny because of what we had in place with Valverde Regional. My question was, if that particular service is not available, meaning that it's already on a trip and they have to call someone else, the employee is not covered. And so I wanted to find out, has there been a case where that particular service is not available because they're en route already and they have to get someone else? Because when that happens, the employee has to pay everything, regardless of whether we have this contract with Valverde Regional. But that didn't happen, correct, Dr. Rios?
Correct, Mr. Mesa. Now, the information is just year to date, so that is just the information that we have.
Yes. From last year.
This year, there's still 4 months left in the policy. We want to make it clear, this is just when they use that company that is here. If they have to fly in a different chopper to transport the patient to San Antonio, that's not part of it. And then we still only pay $10,000 on the district's part because that's what our insurance says. So then the rest of the amount would be billed
to the employee. I couldn't find a case like that this year, so I can't tell you if they would give the employee a discount or a citizen a discount. I just know that when it's the air evac company, we pay 10,000, the employee pays nothing. And really in one case, we make up the difference for that employee, because the employee would definitely pay over $70,000 in their share of it. So it might, some years we may come way ahead, and other years we may just, break even if there's only one case. But at the end of the day, it's to benefit not only the employees but all the citizens. And as far as who funds it, yeah, I understand different communities have different plans.
Questions from board members? No questions? Recommendation, please.
I'm sorry, Amy, is there anything I left out, or I don't want to misrepresent any of
No,
it?
sir. Everything's correct. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the interlocal agreement between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and Val Verde Regional Medical Center, and for Dr. Rios, Superintendent of Schools, to sign the interlocal agreement and approve the purchase order in the amount of $78,777.60 as presented.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item we have is item 14B, consideration to approve the submission of the 2024-2025 request for maximum class size waiver exceptions to TA. Amy Childress.
Good evening once again. Each year, each school district must take a survey of class size enrollment for kindergarten through fourth grade, and to identify any classes that have a size limit over 22 students to one teacher. We conducted our survey for the district on September 10th, and we are asking to approve the submission of TEA maximum class size waiver exemptions. We would be filing 12 of them, identified at 5 different campuses.
Amy, do you have any knowledge of any classes being bilingual?
I don't believe so. I'd have to confer with Mr. Ramirez. He has that. Let's see. So I have 2 at Lamar that are actually a combination of bilingual and general ed students. And then I have, let's see, also 1, same thing, 2 at Sinisa Hills that are a combination of bilingual and general ed.
I'm sorry, but these are for the dual language program.
No, these are regular
Okay.
classrooms that contain both students.
So they're over by 1?
At Lamar, I have 1 that's over by 1 and another class that's over by 2. At Sinisa Hills, I have 2 classes that are over by 1.
Okay, I just don't want to overburden the bilingual classes, so whatever can be done. Dr. Rios, it's hard enough already as it is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Recommendation, please.
Sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submission of the 2024-2025 request for maximum class size waiver exception to TEA and compliance plan.
With the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 14C, consideration to approve the updated 2024-2025 district compensation plans. Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, we have 3 updates to our compensation plan. The first is under athletic stipends, and it's about 3/4 down in the page. For athletic nurse and athletic trainer assistant, we would be removing 1 athletic trainer assistant and adding the athletic nurse. Then the second update we have is on the substitute pay scale, and it's up at the top. We're just identifying for the long-term sub, that long-term sub rates apply after working 5 consecutive days for the same instructor. And then the last item we have on page 246, under the part-time, extra duty, and temporary pay, is we are adding the nurse for the band practice events.
Any question from board members? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the updated 2024-2025 district compensation plans as presented.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 15A, Student Services. Consideration to approve the submission of an application to the Texas Education Agency, TEA, for low attendance day waiver. Laura Sandate.
Good evening, Dr. Rios, President Mesa, and members of the board. In monitoring the weather on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, district officials became aware of a flash flood warning that was issued at approximately 7:50 a.m. by the National Weather Service. The flash flood warning remained in effect until mid-morning, about 10:15 a.m. As a result, the calculated attendance rate was 67.22 for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, which is more than 10% below the overall 23-24 school year average attendance rate of 90.88%. Administration is requesting permission to apply for the district-wide low attendance day waiver for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024.
Any questions from the board? No? Recommendation?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submission of the application to TEA for the district-wide low attendance day waiver.
Thank you for the recommendation. Is there a first? Mr. Galindo, is there a second? Mr. Almaraz, all in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Item 16, Security A, consideration to approve the updates to the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Multi-Hazard Emergency Operations Plan. Chief Foz.
Good evening, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The Texas Education Code requires school districts to develop and implement and annually review their multi-hazard emergency operations plan. To meet the state's required action, the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Multi-Hazard Emergency Operation Plan has been reviewed and updated to meet code requirements. Updates to the 2024-2025 EOP reflect changes to the school administrator assignments and includes the addition of the cybersecurity annex.
Questions from board members? I asked Dr. Rios this, and I just want to make sure again that every time we make reassignments in regard to administration, whether it's a principal or assistant principal, that we have the right contact people with the different agencies that we share copies of the emergency operations plan.
Yes, sir.
Those updates are being done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then, no further questions. Recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves the updates and additions to the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Multi-Hazard Emergency Operation Plans as presented.
With the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Orfeld. Is there a second to the motion? Amy Haynes, seconded. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 16B, consideration to ratify the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, agreements between Livingstone Worship Center, and Southwest Texas College, Del Rio, and San Felipe Del Rio CISD for the purpose of providing a sheltering and mass care facility. Chief Voss.
Good evening once again. The San Felipe Del Rio CISD has partnered with Livingstone Worship Center and Southwest Texas Junior College to assist with providing a shelter and mass care facility in the event of an emergency. In an event of an evacuation need, Livingstone Worship Center and Southwest Texas Junior College will provide a sheltering location for staff and students.
Questions from board members? Dr. Rios, were you going to interject something?
I was just going to share that these MOUs are already in place, but because of the policy update, these memos should be approved by the board. So because they're already in place, we're only asking the board to ratify and not approve.
Question? Recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the ratification of the memorandum of understanding between Livingstone Worship Center, Southwest Texas Junior College, and the San Felipe Del Rio CISD for the purpose of providing shelter and mass care facilities as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion for approval?
Just clarification right quick.
Clarification.
In the ratification, does it list it now as Southwest Texas College or still Southwest Texas Junior?
It's Southwest Texas Junior College is what the MOU says because that's what they were when we had it.
Okay.
But we can clarify that.
Okay. So moved.
Okay, there's a motion made by Ms. Orfeld
Second.
and a second by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Item 16C, consideration to approve the memorandum of understanding MOU agreement between the 47th Security Forces Squadron, Laughlin Air Force Base, and San Felipe Del Rio CISD for the purpose of providing law enforcement response assistance. Chief Voss.
Good evening once again. The San Felipe Del Rio CISD has partnered with the 47th Security Force Squadron and Laughlin Air Force Base to assist in providing law enforcement response in the event of an emergency.
Question from board members?
Is this mainly aimed at RBB or the ability to provide assistance in town as well?
It's to provide assistance, for us to provide assistance to Laughlin at RBB and for us to request assistance from them if we have something in town.
So it is district-wide?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Any other question? Hearing none, recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the memorandum of understanding between the 47th Security Force Squadron, Laughlin Air Force Base, and the San Felipe Del Rio CISD for the purpose of providing law enforcement response assistance as presented.
Further recommendation, motion made by Mr. Galindo, second by Mr. Webb. All those in favor? Motion. Ms. Becky, you voted, right?
Yes, I did. If you look this way, yes.
Okay, all right. Motion is approved. Next item, 16D, consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding, MOU, between San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Texas Department of Public Safety to establish permissions and guidelines for the use of interoperability for mutual aid radio channels.
Good evening once again. The San Felipe Del Rio CISD has collectively partnered with the Texas Department of Public Safety for the purpose of establishing permissions and guidelines for the use of interoperability and mutual aid radio channels by local government jurisdictions during emergency response situations.
Question from board members? So is this to make sure that our radios are compatible with everybody else's?
Correct. DPS has certain radio frequencies that if we need to use other than our own, it gives us permission to use those.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? Hearing none, I'm going to read the recommendation, please.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve and authorize the superintendent to sign the memorandum of understanding between the San Felipe Del Rio CISD and the Texas Department of Public Safety as presented.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Okay, we come to item 17. The time is 7:32 p.m. We're going to go into closed session pursuant to 551.074 and 551.071 of the Texas Education Code. Again, if any item will be taken action, it will be taken upon reconvening into open session. We're now in closed session. The time is 9:37 p.m. We're reconvening into open session. No action was taken in executive. We're down to item 18A. Consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Amy Childress.
Good evening. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the resignations and vacancies and the following new personnel: Rocio Rodriguez, pre-kindergarten teacher at Irene C. Cardwell Elementary School.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Okay, motion's approved.
Thank you.
Item 18B, consideration to approve a new critical needs assistant position at Del Rio Freshman. Amy Childress.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the new critical needs assistant position at Del Rio Freshman School as presented.
For the recommendation, there's a motion by Mr. Galindo. Is there a second? By Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Right, Becky?
Yes, thank
Okay. Item 18C, consideration to approve the position of behavior specialist at Lamar Elementary. Amy Childress.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Enadina Santillan for behavioral specialist.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 18E, D, consideration to approve 3 instructional aid positions for Irene Cardwell Elementary. Amy Childress.
Good evening. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve 3 instructional aid positions at Cardwell Elementary.
Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 18E, consideration to approve the position of registered nurse at Lamar Elementary. Amy Childress.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Carla Valadez as registered nurse at Lamar Elementary School.
For the recommendation from administration, there's a motion by Mr. Almaraz, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Item 18F, consideration and possible action to approve the superintendent's evaluation and contract renewal. Is there a motion from the floor? Mr. Galindo?
Mr. Mesa, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's evaluation and contract amendments as discussed in closed session.
And that includes the amendment as well. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mr. Almaraz. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. There being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night. And congratulations, sir.